My people, let me show you how to cut and sew this off shoulder corset bustier blouse. Okay, it's very simple, it's very easy. Let's get into it. So I'm starting with my fabric, and this fabric is on a fold. The length of this blouse is 24 inches. Okay, so now I extended my tape by 5 inches and I marked my bust point at 8 inches, my nipple point at 10 inches, my under bust point at 14 inches, and my waist point at 16 inches. Now mind you, if you're cutting directly on your fabric, add half an inch to your nipple point and your under bust point, which is what I was explaining to you guys, because my nipple point is 9.5 inches. I marked 10. Okay, so now at my nipple point, I marked my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, and that is 4.4, but I added half an inch, that's 4.5, because I'm cutting directly on the fabric. So I took 4.5 from the nipple point downwards. Now, after taking 4.5 inches from the nipple point downwards, the next thing I went ahead to do was to draw a straight line. Okay, so I drew a straight line. Okay, I'm taking my time in this tutorial. Before you say, Ada, you're too fast. Now I'm slow. Okay, so I drew a straight line, and at my under bust point, I marked 1 inch. Okay, at my under bust point, I marked 1 inch, and I'm taking 1 inch on both sides. So under bust point, 1 inch. Okay, on both sides. At my waist point as well, at the hem as well, I took 1 inch on both sides. Now you can choose to make it tapered if you want, but me, I wanted to keep it like this. Okay, so I marked 1 inch on both sides, and the next thing I went ahead to do was I used my ruler to connect my markings together. Okay, so I connected my markings together. You want to make sure that your lines are straight, so that one is straight, one is bending. Don't do that. Okay, so the next thing I went ahead to do now was to connect my nipple point to my under bust point. Okay, now one thing you want to make sure you do is, however you mark it on the left hand side, make sure you keep same energy on the right hand side. I think this is something I struggle with, because I want to make sure that I'm having, equal measurement on both sides. So when you're connecting your nipple point to under bust point, you want to make sure you keep it straight, and you want to make sure you're keeping it well curvy. So you can see I did mine twice here. Okay, so I went ahead to connect my nipple point to my under bust point with a curvy line, and ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have. Okay, so now at my chest line, which is that top, the next thing I went ahead to do was to mark 5.5 inches. Remember, at under bust I marked 4.5. At the chest line, I stepped it up by 1 inch, so I marked 5.5, because I don't like my bustier to be like being in the middle at the chest point, so I like to step it up by 1 inch. So at that my chest line, I marked half an inch on both sides. Okay, I marked half an inch on both sides, and I just went ahead to connect my markings together, as you can see. Okay, my ear, if you're hearing tiki tiki sound, is my earrings. Maybe let me take it off so I have to stop doing tiki tiki, because I'm shaking my head too much. So now this is what our bust here is looking like. The next thing I went ahead to do was to mark my shoulder point at 8.5 inches. Okay, so I marked my shoulder point at 8.5 inches, and at my bust line, I came down by 1 inch. Remember the last story I did that I was telling you guys that I forgot to step my bust measurement down for my armhole, and it was making it pack. Now this is why I step it down, because some of you are asking, oh, why do you step your armhole down, your bust point measurement around the armhole? This is the reason. Okay, so now at that my new bust line, I marked circumference of my bust divided by 4, and I connected my chest line to my bust line. Now I was not supposed to connect it like this. I got a little distracted, but I'll show you guys the right way to connect it. Okay, so now the distance between those 2 points, I added it back to circumference of my bust, and I reshaped my armhole, because we're going to cut that bustier thing that we drew there. We're going to cut it out, so you want to make sure that your bust, the circumference of your bustier is accurate. Okay, so at my under bust point, I marked circumference of my under bust divided by 4. Okay, that is 8 inches, and the distance between those 2 points, I added it back. At the hem, I marked circumference of my hips divided by 4. The distance between those 2 points, I added it back. Now something I'll tell you is, if you want to, at the hem, don't mark exactly circumference of your hips divided by 4. I would advise you add at least 1 inch or 2 inches extra, so that it will come out a little bit, especially if you've added weight like me. Okay, so at my waist point, I mark circumference of my waist divided by 4, plus the distance between those 2 points. Now you're going to use your own measurement. Because I noticed that sometimes I call my measurement and you guys go ahead and use my measurement and complain that it's not sizing you. Okay, so now the next thing I went ahead to do was connect my bust to my under bust to my waist and to the hem. Then I went ahead to add 2.5 inches sewing allowance, so at my under bust point, at my waist point, and also at the hips. So you guys see what I was trying to tell you, that me I've added width. So the distance between my stomach area and my hips was not so much. That's the difference. So the hem of the blouse was not really coming out like that. So that's why for me, if I'm cutting again, if circumference of my hips divided by 4 is 11, I might end up marking 12 or 12 and a half or 13. Okay, so now at this point I want to give the neckline a little bit of sweetheart. Okay, a little bit of curve. So I came down by 1.5 inch. Okay, if you don't understand anything I'm saying, just pause, rewind, and watch again. So I came down by 1.5 inch, and the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect it together. So now, because this is directly on the fabric, I moved by 1 cm because I'm going to join it by 1 cm allowance. So I moved away from that line by 1 cm before I went ahead to connect it together, because I want it to be accurate. If you mark it directly on this bustier line, when you want to join, it's not always accurate, you get. So bear that in mind. So at the hem, I came up by 1 inch. I also did that at the allowance. Now after doing this, what I want to do here is shape the hem of this gown. Okay, so just like we did for the top, from the bustier line I marked 1 cm. I drew a straight line. Okay, this ruler is a 1 cm ruler, so you guys notice I'm always using it. So I marked 1 cm. I drew a straight line. Now I want to curve the bottom of the hem. So just look at what I'm doing. It's a little technical. Me, I had to do it, over and over again, but I got a hang of it. Okay, so now this is how I am curving the bottom. So are you seeing what I did here? Now that place we went up by 1 inch. From there, I just connected it down to my, see that 1 inch mark, I connected it to that point. Okay, also for the other side, from that line we drew for our bustier, I also went ahead to mark 1 cm. Okay, I went ahead to mark 1 cm, and I explained to you guys that the reason I do this is because I need joining allowance, because we are cutting directly on a fabric. If we're cutting on a pattern, I would have added this in the pattern. Okay, so from the hem I came up by 2 inches. Okay, so from the hem I came up by 2 inches, and see how I carved it. Okay, so this is how I went ahead to shape the bottom. You're going to shape your own like this. Okay, so I shaped it like this before, but I also went back to shape it to my desired shape. Okay, so at the bottom as well I went up by 2 inches, and this is how I connected everything. So this is how I connected everything. See, if you don't, if the two fabric being on the same spot, like being equal, doesn't bother you, you don't have to put this 1 cm join allowance. You don't have to mark it out, but me, it bothers me, so I always mark it out. Okay, so I just went in again to touch on the measurement, on the shaping, so that everything looks accurate and looks nice. And I erased the other line, and I told you guys that for the armhole that I didn't shape it well, so I just went ahead to shape it again. Now, just like I did for the other places, I marked 1 cm joining allowance. I marked that point, and from that 1 cm point I just went in to slant my armhole, because if you look at the thumbnail on this video, the armhole is actually slanted, it is not curvy. Okay, so I just went ahead to slant it out, or slant it in, whatever. Okay, so this is how the right way to mark the armhole for this outfit. So after doing all this, the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut it out. And for this particular tutorial, I decided to show you guys know normally when I'm cutting I don't show you, I just show you guys when I've finished cutting. Okay, but I said to show you guys how to go ahead to cut your own, so it makes a lot of sense to you. Okay, so after cutting, ladies and gentlemen, I went ahead to cut the hem, and you can see how I cut the hem. Okay, so this is how I cut the center front, and this is how I cut the center side. and I also went ahead to cut the curvy side like this. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what the front part of this off shoulder corset bustier looks like. Okay, so now it is time to cut the back. Okay, so it is time to cut the back. And for the back, remember that at this, for the front, we step the armhole down by 1 inch. So our new bust point for the back is going to be 9 inches. So I extended my tape by 5 inches and I marked 9 inches for my bust point. Okay, so after marking 9 inches for my bust point, I went ahead to connect all my markings together. Okay, see, this tutorial is a reason why you should not cut when you are sick, because I was pushing myself to cut when I was sick. Okay, so now that's my bust point at 9 inches, my under bust point at 14 inches, and my half blouse at 16 inches. Okay, I just went ahead to target bust point, under bust point, half blouse. Yeah, like I was saying, don't cut when you're sick, because you make a lot of mistakes. And of late, I've been making lots of mistakes because I'm sick, but I'm pushing myself to film tutorials for you guys. Anyways, because I don't want to be idle and I want to do the job that I like. Okay, so I went ahead to mark my zip allowance at 1 inch. So for my zip allowance line, I marked 4.5 inches for my dart line, and at the hem I also marked 4.5 inches and I drew a straight line. Okay, so now after drawing a straight line, the next thing I went ahead to do was to mark half an inch on both sides. You guys, if you've been here for a while, you guys know that this is how I like to shape the back of my blouses. Okay, so at the top there I marked half a cm on both sides, and at the hem I mark half a cm. You can do 1 cm on both sides. I think I'll try out 1 cm and see how it came out. Okay, so the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect my markings together. Okay, so I connected the top to the bottom, and we have something, let's say, funny or dramatic going on here. You guys, for like the next few weeks, I'm going to try it out before I bring it to you people. I'm going to try out different ways to shape the back of a bustier. Okay, so at my bust line, I mark circumference of my bust divided by 4, which is 9.5 inches. I mark circumference of my under bust divided by 4, which is 8. Circumference of my waist divided by 4, which is 8. And at the hem, I mark circumference of my hips divided by 4, which is 11. Like I said, add 1 extra inch to when you're marking your hips. Okay, so just like we did for the front, whatever we're marking, the distance between these points here, I added them back to the main piece. And after doing this, I went ahead to connect all my markings together. Okay, I went ahead to connect all my markings together. See, this shape would have really turned out well if I added at least 2 extra inches or even 1 extra inch to my hips measurement. Anyway, learn from my mistake. So the next thing I went ahead to do now was to add 2.5 inches for my sewing allowance. You guys, I've tried 1 inch, I've tried 1.5 inch. It almost ended in premium tears. In fact, 2 inches was a struggle. Okay, so that's why I always add at least 2.5 inches, especially for my bustier. So this is what the back part of this blouse looks like. Yeah, I went in to shape it out so that I don't have my zip bulge. If you want to learn that one, come to my intermediate class. Okay, I'm not giving it to you for free. Yes, you heard me right. Okay, so I went ahead to tag it center back, side back, and you can even see what I did here, so you don't have to stress yourself. I just shaped it so I don't have a zip bulge. That's along my zip allowance line. And just like I did for the front, along the hem, I went up by 1 inch and I carved it out, or I carved it in, or curved it in, whatever you want to call it. And the next thing now I went ahead to do was to cut it out. So that thing on top, we don't need it because the back is going to be straight. So I just went ahead to cut it out. Okay, so I took my time. You guys, for this particular tutorial, I decided to take my time to show you guys all the cutting, because it might get a little confusing. Okay, so I just took my time to show you guys all I'm cutting, all I'm sewing. You understand? So I went ahead to cut my dart, and because I didn't hold it down with pin, I almost cried premium tears, but God stepped in for me. So always hold it down with pin when you want to cut. Okay, so this is what the back part looks like. And now I went ahead to cut a strap. The length of this strap is 11 inches and the width is 1.5 inch. Okay, so I cut 2 pieces. So now it is time to sew. Okay, so for my fabric, I went ahead to put 2 layers of paper stay. Okay, I put 2 layers of paper stay, and the next thing I went ahead to do was to place it like this, and I joined. Okay, so you guys, for this bustier, a lot of things went wrong. I used the wrong fabric, ladies and gentlemen. Never you. I put 1 layer, not 2 layers of paper stay. I put 1 layer of paper stay on the lining. I was saying something. Never you use shiny face satin for anything reasonable. That is going to frustrate you. And I bought plenty, so I have to manage it like this. So please, if you want to use doll face. Don't go and use shiny face satin. You will cry premium tears. Okay, so I took the bustier over to my sewing machine and I joined it. I did same thing for the lining. Now this is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the lining piece. Remember, 2 layers of paper stay on the main piece, 1 layer on the lining piece. Okay, so now for the back, this is the back part. I also put 2 layers of paper stay on the back part and 1 layer on the lining piece for the back part. So I placed the center back on the side back like this, and I took it over to my sewing machine and I just joined. Of course, I secured with my office pin because I don't have strength to be fighting something that it will not be equal as I'm sewing to be jumping. Okay, so after joining the back pieces, I did same thing for the lining. Now for this strap, okay, for this strap, this is how you're going to fold it. See how I'm folding? That's how you're going to fold your own. For me, if you want to, if you have other styles. So now for the designer of this dress, I think I'll put her name on the screen or in the description box. Because for the screen I'll forget. I'll put her name in the description box. This strap was detachable, but for my own I attached it permanently. Okay, so you guys, this is the main piece, this is the back part, and the next thing I went ahead to do was to mark out 1 inch. That 1 inch we did for our zip allowance, I went ahead to mark it out. I secured with my clip, and I just went ahead to first of all join it at the zip allowance because the sewing is about to get real. Okay, so now at the back, the first thing I went ahead to do, or I've done several things, but anyway, take it as the first thing. So this is what the back and the front looks like. From the middle, I went ahead to mark 5 inches. Okay, and this 5 inches is the point where I am going to include, where I'm going to attach the strap. Okay, so from the middle I marked 5 inches on both sides. Okay, so now after marking 5 inches on both sides, now I'm using my fabric pen. This is the strap after we went ahead to sew it. This is the strap and this is the front part. Okay, so now let me show you how I attached my strap. I grabbed the strap, I placed it in the middle. You see where the joining line for the bustier is? I placed it in the middle there. I secured with my office pin. See how the two of them look like here. Okay, so this is the strap attached, secured to the front piece with my office pin, and you see that point I marked at the back. I just went ahead to place the strap on that point, and I also secured it with my office pin. Okay, so after securing my office pin, I just went ahead to top stitch to join the strap to the back piece and to the front piece. Okay, so after joining the strap to the front piece and the back piece, this is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we have here. Okay, so now you guys are still understanding, bah? So this is the front and the back part together. The first thing I went ahead to do was to mark out my measurement. See, I've done a lot of things, so I don't know why I keep saying the first thing I went ahead to do. I went ahead to mark out my measurement, secure with my office pin, and the next thing I went ahead to do was to join my measurements. Just that line I've drawn, I just went ahead to sew. Okay, if my voice is coming before or after, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. I've sent my software people a message. My editor is lagging. I don't know why. So just bear with me while we're trying to figure out the problem. Okay, so I also did same thing for the lining. I went ahead to mark out my measurement and I'll join it. Okay, and I was joining it here. Now from the lining, it's not looking like I marked it. I marked it though. The fabric pen was already disappearing. I think he touched it or something, but I could still see the line. But then I realized that you guys really can't see it from the camera, but I could see it. Okay, before you tell me, I thought you did not mark it out, you are just joining it like that. I marked it though. I marked it. Okay, so after joining the front and the back piece together, I realized that the back part was looking too long, so I just went ahead to shape it a little bit, and I went ahead to cut it. Okay, so this was when I cut it. I did same thing for the lining and for the main piece. So this is what the back part looks like, ladies and gentlemen. This is what the front part looks like for this bustier blouse, corset bustier blouse, whatever you want to call it. Left to me, it is a bustier, but provided it's boning, you people want to be calling it corset, so corset bustier blouse. So I went ahead to open it at the zip allowance. I opened it up, and the next thing I did was I grabbed the lining piece. Okay, so now for my lining, I went ahead to insert my bra cup and put boning on different points. Now in this on my channel, I have a video on how to pad your bustier with boning and bra cup, so you want to check that out. So I just went ahead to put some boning by the sides and in the middle and under the bust, so that it, you know, it will hold the dress very well. And trust me, the final fit there just copy, see the way I am going to place my boning, just place your boning like that. But because I do not just want this boning to be naked, so I just grabbed this microfiber and I use my hemming gum to attach it to the front part of this blouse. So after attaching it, the next thing I went ahead to do was to join the top side of this blouse together. Okay, so was to join it at the top. If I speak English, I don't know, I joined at the top, but I joined it middle to end and end to middle, because I did not want it to shift. Okay, some people are very good, they can join end to end, but me, sometimes I face challenges. So I sometimes, for things like this, I join middle to end and end to middle, just as you're seeing me do here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now after joining it, I went ahead to flip it over and I gave it a very good top stitch. You must top stitch. At this point, it's like I'm shouting, because I see a lot of you join, maybe you use your hemming gum and you do not top stitch. It will show. It's either a top stitch or you top stitch. There are different ways to top stitch. So after top stitching the top side, I went ahead to also join the bottom side. Okay, I joined the bottom, the lining and the main piece of the bottom, that's the hem, okay, together. And I just followed the shape, and this one took me a little bit longer to do, because you know that the bottom is curvy, and I joined this bottom on 1/2 inch. Yeah, 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So now for the bottom, because I'm not going to be doing the normal top stitching, the next thing I went ahead to do was to attach hemming gum to the bottom. Okay, I attached hemming gum to the bottom. I just went ahead to keep, you know, sewing and sewing and sewing and going over it and going over it and going over it and going over it. You're just going to attach that. By the time you top stitch and you iron, it will hold everything in place. Okay, so now I told you guys that I was going to be doing another type of top stitch. So what I just went ahead to do was to make sure that the lining wasn't popping out at the hem. I kind of shifted it a little bit in and just went ahead to make stitches on the right side of the fabric. Okay, after doing this, I went ahead to top stitch the zip allowance, and this is what the hem looks like. Okay, remember I told you guys I was going to be doing another type of top stitching. So now this is what this blouse looks like before I bite my tongue. The next thing I went ahead to do was to insert my zip. I have 2 detailed videos on this channel on how to insert a zip, so you might want to check that out. So after inserting my zip, this is what we have here for the back part of this blouse. Okay, see why I told you guys that I don't like this fabric. It just made this thing ugly. So now this is 1 yard of tulle or soft net, whatever you call it, and it was a little bit puffy. So the way I prepped it for this tutorial was to squeeze it and iron, squeeze it and iron, squeeze it and iron. And the next thing I went ahead to do was to mark out where I want my soft net to be, where I want it to, you know, the places I want it to be on. So I just marked it out, but I made sure it passed through, it passed on top of my nipple point. Okay, measurement, it passed on top. So this is what the sides look like. This is what the sides look like. Okay, you can see how I marked it. You mark, make sure it pass on top of your nipple point measurement and directly under your bust, or 1/2 inch below your under bust measurement. Okay, so now this is the tulle. Remember I told you guys that I ironed it, so you just grab iron, it will make it more manageable to handle. Okay, so now the first thing I went ahead to do was to grab my office pin. I started from the middle and I just went ahead to fold and pin, fold and pin. I just followed the outline of what I marked. That was basically what I did, guys. I followed the outline of what I marked and it was very simple. You know what, see, if you're a tailor and you want to get into draping, even if you don't have money for dress form, just get yourself a mannequin. It will help you. You can do this on the table, but it will not give you the result you actually need and want. Or you can do it directly on your clients. Okay, but me, this one was for me. So who was I going to do it on? I don't have eyes at the back of my head. Okay, so I just went ahead to fold and pin, fold and pin, fold and pin. And this mannequin is almost my body size, so I can, work my way around it. So I did same thing for the other side. I went ahead to fold and pin, fold and pin, fold and pin. And some of you be like, oh, is the pin passing through? I was the one that can pass through. That's through the, remember it has a bra cup in it, so that one also helped with securing the pin. And I also placed the pin in such a way that it will have a grip on the fabric. Okay, so that was what I kept doing. And when it was time to, around the armhole, I marked where I wanted it to start and where I wanted it to stop. Okay, from the measurement I did initially, you would have noticed that. So when I got to the back, this is how I secured the tool to the back. And that excess, after I'm done holding it down with stitches, that's the excess I put inside the back part. Okay, I'm going to cut it out. That excess I'm chucking in, I cut the excess out. Okay, so after draping and securing my office pins, this is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen. If my face looks tired, guys, I was tired. I went to about 3 banks that day, the day I was draping this thing. I left home in the morning, came back at night, and jumped into content creation. Okay, so this is what it looked like after I was done draping. Now the next thing I went ahead to do was to thread my needle, and those places that my pin were, I just made stitches. I tried to make invisible stitches. In fact, I made invisible stitches because you will not see the stitches. So all those parts I showed you were the places I held down with stitches. Then I grabbed my sequin bead, my seed bead, and this black pearl bead, and I just furnished the top part of my blouse, the hem, and the tulle. Okay, so this was, I did around the neckline and some places, but I showed my assistant and my cousins where they would help me bead, and we just went into work. And guys, after beading, this is how it turned out. Like, this beading moved this dress from 0 to 1000. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, see why I told you guys that for your hips, especially if you are like, you have my body size or shape, okay, you want to add like 1 extra inch so that the shape you're trying to get at the hem, it will come out very well. Okay, now I have added weight and I struggled to zip this thing to the top. Yeah, I struggled. So this is what this corset, if I bite my tongue, corset bustier blouse looks like. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you thumbs up, make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.